So what's the next one? What else do the guys say?
So the detective says, so how long do you think, how much time transpired between when Jesus initially calls you and tells you he's shot until you start hearing gunshots in the background? JV, the dispatcher, says less than 10 minutes, definitely.
Gosh.
Yeah, I want to say maybe in the 5 to 6 minute region. Okay? Which is good. So you're talking about 10:15. Between 10:10 and 10:15,
well,
according to these guys.
According to these guys, but see, now we already know that Jesus went up there to check, the door was locked, and then he walked. First statement said he walked all the way to the other end, up the steps, and down the hall. Second statement says he took the elevator in the center.
Yeah.
And he's upset because he's about ready to get off work. And so he's fiddle farting around on another open door call, going, my gosh, come on.
Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Give me a break.
He's so dismantled right now because he's coming close to getting off shift and he's a little upset. And so he's going down the hallway, finally gets to the 32nd floor, comes down the hallway, opens the little closet door, and he got some kind of I would have ventured to say it's just a metal piece you take off and you open the door. I don't know. They never did explain how that was.
Yeah, they have pictures of it.
Okay.
It was just screwed in. So if he had a screwdriver, he could have taken it off.
Okay. And then he picks up the phone instead of calling dispatch on a radio.
Right.
He picks up the home phone.
Yeah. Instead of saying, "Hey, we've got a locked door here. Can somebody come up and bring me?"
He didn't even use his cell phone or his radio.
Does somebody have a Phillips screwdriver, please? I got 2 screws loose.
I got two screws loose up here. Oh, now that would be classic, dude. I want to hear the recording. Now that right there is funny. That's pretty good. Call an engineer. I got 2 screws loose up here. So he hangs up the home phone, starts walks out of that room, doesn't even see the cart with a bright white cloth over it.
No.
Outside the room, right?
Yep. Oh, by the way, when the cops were clearing the room, right, and they started walking down that hallway to start clearing the rooms, the cop was actually standing in front of room 104 in the video, and at that point notices the cart.
And then somebody keep rear cover. I know we got security.
I got you, boss.
Okay, we're moving up.
Okay,
move up. I'm gonna follow you guys as you go.
All right. Hey, you start shooting. Fucking lay it down.
I told him, he's precision, I'm going full out.
Get in there. Keep that door open. Hold up right next to Steve. Get up next to Steve and cover that door in case it opens up. You're covering that door in case it opens up. You're covering that one.
What is that cart that's in the hallway?
I don't know, and that's why we're not going any farther. And you got something in the hallway right there. Gas cart. What kind of gas? Yes, these doors. Service card. Right there. Right there.
Take your vest out. That yellow vest. Lift it up and just drop it.
Coming out? Clear this yet?
Metro Police!
Metro Police! Negative. Right here, dude. But you're right at the line of fire. You didn't hear anything?
We know for sure, because the security guard got shot.
He shot him through the door. So, keep that in mind. Is this security officer with us right now?
It's a heavy gun, so, I mean, he's probably just gonna, under the walls and everything.
It sounded like a fucking saw or something.
Oh, man,
It's heavy.
we were down there. We saw the people get hit. We got ready.
Oh, shit. Last room. 1, 2, 3.
Go. Let's play. Get back.
Show your hands. Show your hands right now. Come on. Get out. Come out the hole. Get out. Get out. Go to your left. Go to your left.
Clear. Clear.
Coming out.
Real quick. Hey, Rudy came out. Hey, Pat. Stop. No more talking after this.
He didn't notice the cart in the little circular area, but when they started moving down room by room by room, he was standing next to room 104, and he goes, "What in the world is down there? That's a cart." So he sees it all the way from room 104.
Right.
So Jesus passed that damn cart twice and didn't see it.
Right. Twice. He passed it twice.
Twice.
And never mentioned it.
Right.
Never mentioned that cart whatsoever.
No.
And then comes back, and next thing gets shot, what he thinks. In the video, I don't even see anything.
Right.
I mean, if anybody has not seen that video, you need to look at the previous videos we've done, because, I mean, I don't know, but a mosquito bite would have showed up on that video.
Mm-hmm.
So
anyway. Yep. So he goes, so the detective says, so you're on the phone for, with Jesus Campos for quite some time. Quite a long time. JV, the dispatcher, says, yeah, right. Detective says, just staying on the phone with him and trying to get that figured out before you hear the shots again? And the JV, the dispatcher, says yes. Now, I don't know what kind of question that is, but okay,
yeah, it's
whatever.
A weird question.
So the detective says, okay, so during the 5 to 6 minutes, or maybe 10-minute window, what's he telling you? Is he just telling you, Jesus that is Jesus just telling you, does he say he's bleeding? Is he in pain? Does he tell you where he is? All that kind of stuff. The rooms. JV, the dispatcher, says, he told me where the shot came from. He told me, again, what room he was in front of. I kept asking him, are you okay? Are you hurt? Are you bleeding? Do you have anything on you that you could possibly do to stop your bleeding? He told me no. Hold on. Time out.
Okay.
Didn't he tell us in his last statement that he actually wrapped it with gauze?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So here in this guy's statement, it's actually a quote. Do you have anything to stop your bleeding? Now, in this statement, he says, I was only bleeding a little bit. Do you have anything to wrap your wound? No. Okay. Question now. Jesus, come in the room. Where did you get the gauze and wrap? And from who and when?
So did any of your people apply pressure or anything like Jesus? We're first aid certified. So I did my best to wrap it. Keep pressure on it, or keep the pressure, the compression. Okay. At that time, I wasn't bleeding out as much, so it did stop the bleeding after I did apply the gauze and the wrap. You saw the video. I didn't see a gauze wrap or anything around his leg.
Or a wrapper on the floor.
Say again, users. Downstairs next by the elevator. They're screaming. We're two middle up here. That's a crazy guy. Get all this down the base. Brian, no traffic unless it's involved in stuff. Copy. Bam, get in the room. I'm on the 32nd floor. Room is going to be 135, right? Hey, stay with me. I'm trying to get on the radio.
Because obviously you said you wrapped your leg for
Right.
a pellet gun wound that really wasn't bleeding.
Right.
Where'd you get it? Because you're telling me you don't have it right now. So I said, all right, just hang in there, Jesus. Stay on the phone with me until we get someone up to you.
Click.
Well,
Go ahead.
yeah. So this guy embellishes his story, right? I mean,
Right.
he already told his version. Now he's
Right.
adding to the story.
Exactly.
You know, so hold on, stay there, stay on the phone until we get somebody up to help you.
Right. I like to hear the recording of it.
I'm sure it sounds really good.
Yeah.
So the detective says, okay. So in the meantime, that's happening, do you know what else is going on? So besides this blacked out individual here, sending the armed units up there, anything else going on? JV, the dispatcher, says such and such was sending units up. This guy, they're all blacked out, was on the phone with Metro. Whatever other calls we had pending for the night stopped at that point. No more wheelchair assist, no more someone needs to get into the room. I actually believe one of them had called the paramedics. And the detective says, okay, whatever. So that was just a rumbling, mumbling, bunch of words there. Detective says, okay, all right. So they called paramedics first, then the police? I mean, I don't know why that would matter, but, why ask Yeah. At that point, who cares?
Right.
JV, the dispatcher, says paramedics for the injury and then police because of the gunfire.
Right.
Detective. So the paramedics call is placed initially probably closer on the front end, I'm assuming, when you were first on the phone with Jesus. And he, obviously JV, the dispatcher, agrees because it's a...
Right.
the detective's telling him what he needs to agree with.
Right.
The detective says, and then during your 5 to 10 minute window that you're on the phone with Jesus, you're on the phone with him continuously at that point. You never hang up. And JV, the dispatcher, says, yes. The detective says, then you yourself hear shots. JV says, yes. Detective says, and how did those sound to you? And JV, the dispatcher, says, really loud. I could have sworn he could have been right outside the room. Okay.
Okay.
So they're loud. All right.
Right.
So they're gunshots. Now, there's a lot of questions there in my mind. If they were that loud for the dispatcher to think that they were gunshots, then why didn't Jesus Campos think that they were gunshots as well and not a pellet gun?
Right.
So I don't know.
Strange.
Maybe it was a loud pellet gun. I mean, there are loud pellet guns, right? I mean, I've seen these like machine gun pellet guns, right? I mean,
right.
So they sound like guns, like So
right.
But you wouldn't make the assumption at that point that it's a pellet. You would. I mean, I've heard these things right on YouTube.
Yeah.
They sound like machine guns.
Right.
They just shoot pellets. So if you hear the sound, the first thing you're going to think of is, holy shit, that's a shot. That's somebody shooting me with a machine gun.
Right.
That's a pellet gun.
Pellet. Yeah, not a pellet gun.
I mean, so anyway.
It's weird. Yeah. Odd.
Okay, so he says it's really loud. So what were you thinking is happening at the time, the detective asks. So JV, the dispatcher, says, so I asked him, which is Jesus, you're not standing in the hallway, are you? Well, I mean, at this point, we don't know if Jesus is just standing in the hallway, okay? I told him, and Jesus tells the dispatcher, no, I'm hiding in the cubbies in front of the doors. Right?
Okay.
So the dispatcher says, all right, stay there, wait till the armed units get there. So what's interesting with this, and I just want to surface this to everybody, is words, right? The common use of words or the repetitive use of the same words. So if you recall in the criminal investigation document, right?
Right.
Remember when we actually were defending Jesus and saying, hey, Jesus, you should go back to the investigator and be pissed off because they said you were hiding.
So anyway, I was looking at the investigative document, this Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department criminal investigative report. This is the final report, right, that they published on August 3rd, 2018. Not too long ago. But, and on Jesus Campos's section, remember we were talking about that a little earlier.
Right.
On page 49, what I just saw, I mean, again, I've gone through this, but I haven't we're going to dissect it one of these days on the YouTube, right, video. When we have the whole timeline built.
Right.
Statements, we're going to go back to this because it should match.
It should match. Yes.
We're not doing anything different. We're
right.
So anyway, down here at the bottom, what's interesting is in the footnotes. In the bottom of page 49, this thing says reference 23. In Campos' sworn statement where he says Campos hid, which he never said he hid.
Right.
This is what I'm saying.
He was pinned down.
Yeah, they're not using his own words. They're putting in words. So, but anyway, they said Campos hid in the alcove of rooms 121 and 123.
Okay.
Right? That's what we were just talking about.
Sure. Yeah.
As he broadcast over the radio, which he didn't use the radio.
He said he used his phone.
He didn't say it. The dispatcher he called said it.
Ah.
We're going to get to that sworn statement. Just foreshadowing a little bit. But the problem is I've read the sworn statements. In the final investigative document, they actually list he broadcasts over the radio. He never broadcast over the radio.
No.
The sworn statement of the dispatcher said specifically, I saw the phone number. I knew it was Campos. I picked it up.
Huh.
And he called into his dispatch reporting gunfire, right? And that he was shot. Got it. That sentence, they clarify the rooms that he supposedly hid in or that he states he was pinned in.
Right.
I mean, if my sworn statement says I was pinned down,
right.
By God, you better not reword that to say I hid.
Exactly.
I was not hiding from anything. If I was Campos, I'd be pissed off. I'd be like, you need to correct that. I said pinned down. I wasn't hiding.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
But Campos says he was pinned down in front of 121 and 123. This final document at the bottom says it was determined
to be rooms 122 and 124 in their investigation.
Huh.
But they don't list how they concluded that.
So they changed his sworn statement.
So they listed his sworn statement, but then they
Right.
referenced it and they said determined to be rooms 122 and 124 during the investigation.
But what led them to that? Doesn't say.
The question.
Why would they change that? It doesn't say.
Nope. And it doesn't reference the document that they used to change it. Question. So anybody out there know? Please let us know.
And you basically said that you were trying to get away, right, from gunfire.
Right.
The only other time I've seen the word hiding is by the dispatcher. So what's interesting is this, is when I went back to see remember the page that we looked at? If you go to the police report, the final police report,
Right.
and you go to Jesus Campos's statement, okay? Remember, the Las Vegas Police Department corrected Jesus's statement. Remember that? They said basically
It was all leading statements. Yeah, it was all leading questions.
No. On page 49 of the 187-page investigation report, the final one, Jesus's statement is typed out here. Okay.
Oh yeah.
And they kind of use their own language with it. But what
Right.
but at the bottom of it, what's interesting, if you recall, is they have a footnote that says it was determined during the investigation, it was determined that Jesus was in front of room 122 and 124. Okay.
Right.
Also, now this individual says no, he wasn't in front of 122 and 124. He was in front of 118 and
Right.
and
120.
Right.
Yeah.
So and so when we're looking at this, so they know something different than what Jesus and the dispatcher heard.
Yeah.
The other thing is, remember we were talking about this, and the word that they used in this statement, it actually says Jesus Campos, and then they list his statement. And remember when we were reading it, it actually says Campos hid in the alcove of rooms 121 and 123. The word hid, only other time I've seen that word is with this dispatcher. I'm saying that as a note, right?
Right. Just
I
as
want
a
to know
note, just
where
as
are they getting it.
a little bullet point there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, who knows what it is? I'm just saying, hey, this is something that kind of surfaced itself to me, and we're still trying to figure out which actual rooms he was standing in front of.
Right.
So it's because they don't actually articulate how they define or how they found this stuff. But the language, when they said in this statement here that he hid, that's when we were kind of upset and go, hey, Jesus, I'd put a complaint in. You didn't hide. According to the dispatcher said Jesus told him, I'm hiding in front of these two rooms.
Right.
Interesting stuff. So
That's exactly right. Yeah. We need to make a little note. It's just a little side note.
It is, and you never know, right?
Connect the dots.
Yeah. Okay, so basically, let's go back. So JV, the dispatcher, asks Jesus, "Hey, you're not standing in the middle of the hallway, are you?" That's a question I probably would ask you, but you probably would not ask me because I was smarter than that. Yeah, so then he says, okay, so Jesus tells him, hey, I'm hiding. I'm hiding in Jesus tells the dispatcher, I'm hiding
Right.
in the cubbies in front of the doors. Okay, we're good. So the policeman says, so how many rounds do you think were fired, approximately? Dispatcher says at least 30. Okay.
All right.
Which is interesting that he says that number. Okay, because if you're looking at a machine gun's about 30 rounds. Remember, it's been 10 days. He has talked to Jesus in the interim here.
And he's watched Ellen. He's done all his,
Yeah.
you know, it was all over the place. So
Yeah.
he's already, Jesus has already been on Ellen.
Yeah. So Jesus is sworn
before
statement.
this is interviewed.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then, you know, basically in the time event chart, you've got Jesus saying a full magazine, and now this guy's saying at least 30 rounds. So.
Right.
So anyway, so the detective says, okay, so how fast were they being fired? You know, basically in your best judgment.
Sure.
JV, the dispatcher, says, I couldn't give you an RPM, but it was pretty much and he goes, knocking sounds. You know, however fast that was.
Right.
Okay, so it's pretty quick? Yeah, was the answer. All right, so the detective says, so you're on the phone, armed units get up there, they get there. Does he stay on the phone with you until he's back to the elevators or anything like that? JV, the dispatcher, says, no, he hung up, and I told somebody, hey, he hung up, so I hope the armed units are up there.
Oh, my gosh.
All right, so Jesus basically hung up. All right, we got it.
All right.
So the gunshots fired, Jesus hung up. Now, if I'm talking to you on the phone, because we know it's a cell phone, and I'm like, holy, somebody's shooting me with a pellet gun. Brian, somebody shoot me with a pellet gun.
Pow, 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 pow.
And I'm
I don't
talking
think
to
you'd
you,
hang up.
and then all of a sudden I hang up after you hear those 30 rounds.
That means you're dead.
Right?
To me, it means you're dead.
God. All right. Yeah, I mean, it's just common sense. I don't.
Yeah.
So to me, it's kind of suspect, this guy here. So anyway, so he hung up. Jesus hangs up, and this dispatcher turns around and says, "Hey, Jesus, hang up, huh? Jesus, hang up. Jesus." I don't think he went through this much trouble. Campos hung up. So I hope the armed units are up there.
Yeah. I hope they're up there.
And JV, without missing a step, says, at which point such and such asks, are the units on scene? And the manager said that they were on scene along with a couple of our bike guys. So we saw those guys in the video, right? The manager, the bike guys, right?
You know what's interesting here? Well, I guess what's interesting too, because I mean, I've had a lot of, you know, I mean, when you're, I mean, going through the firefighter and you all these fires and you work with some police officers stuff, you always work with dispatch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, multiple times a day, you know, on calls, you know, many times every day you're on duty. If you just know, when my alarm at my house, my ADT alarm, if it goes off and I call dispatch or dispatch calls me, and if I would hang up without saying, okay, bye, they're going to call me back. Okay. Why would a dispatcher know there's 30 rounds being fired and not call Jesus back?
Right.
Okay. I want anybody and everybody, if you have emergency, I don't care what the emergency is. If you have an emergency and you call dispatch and you just you call them and you just hang up, they're going to call you back.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to try to call you back. You may not answer, but they're going to try to call you back.
It's like me calling 911, the operator hearing about a round of machine gun fire behind me, and then I hang up.
Yeah. They're calling you back. They're calling you back. They're calling the police, definitely, but they're calling you back to make sure you're okay.
Yeah.
You may not answer, and that's fine, but still their job is to you're the chain of it's command.
They got a radio, dude. His radio's
command
open.
and control. Exactly.
He's got an earpiece.
Yes,
he's
he
got
does.
an earpiece. We've seen that. Remember?
Yes,
I showed the
has an
video.
earpiece.
He has an earpiece.
He does have
He
an
has
earpiece.
a radio. He has a cell phone.
And the guy the dispatcher did not even get on the radio and say, "Hey, you okay?
Right.
You just hung up.
Right.
You know, are you over?
So let's take this into perspective now, time-wise. So Jesus gets shot in the calf. According to this guy, Jesus gets shot, right? Dials up the phone to dispatch. JV, the dispatcher, sees the caller ID, picks it up. They're talking on the phone. He's like, "Yeah, hey man, I'm in front of these two rooms, and I got shot by a pellet gun out of room 135." So as they're talking,
right?
all of a sudden, he hears gunfire. 30 rounds.
Right.
I mean,
that's a lot.
That's a lot of rounds.
Think about that. Knocking like that.
Yeah.
That's a lot of rounds.
All of a sudden, I turned my phone off. I hung up. And this guy says, as soon as he hung up, now think about this. If you're looking at timelines, if we know the time that he hung up, because it's a cell phone.
Right.
I mean, it's not like you can't get the information. I mean, that's
exactly
pretty easy, right?
Right.
And he not only has that data stored on his cell phone provider's list and his bill.
Right.
Because it's probably his personal phone.
Right.
But the dispatcher also has the log because it went into the dispatch room.
Exactly.
So you got multiple logs there that show when that phone call hung up.
Right.
It hung up, according to the dispatcher, immediately after he heard 30 rounds fired.
Right.
Right? And then the dispatcher immediately says, "I hope that somebody's up there." And they immediately discovered, yes, the manager's up there with the bike units. So if that's the case, then the manager and the bike units should have heard
the 30
rounds. They would have had to have been in the hallway somewhere.
Right.
Because
and we have seen
the
video of those guys.
Right.
And they're acting like nothing's going on.
They have no clue.
That timeline is very important right there, man.
Right.
That right there, that's some crazy stuff.
That's the time that we need. When did Jesus hang up?
Because right before he hung up, you got 30 rounds supposedly going off by this dispatcher saying that. Jesus, he said, a magazine went off or whatever like that. But
he didn't tell that to the cops.
No.
He said that in a sworn statement 4 days later.
4 days later.
The only thing he said to the cops is, "Somebody shot me with a pellet gun. See my."
He didn't say anything about that whole magazine being unloaded at 2:30 in the morning.
No.
The day of, the night of.
Only pellets.
Just a pellet. Right.
4 days later, he said, "Yeah, I think it was a whole magazine."
And the video that we have of that evening on the last video that we did, the video that we have of those officers up there with Campos's, leg. I mean, you can see his leg plain as day on multiple views.
Yep.
And those officers don't have a care in the world. They're standing right in the middle of the whole place.
We're doing it right now. 30 seconds forward. Okay, she's still firing. Now we'll stand by and wait for more. One, two, let's. With the GSW?
I don't know. I don't know if it's a pellet or a 22 or it's multi.
We have access to this room. The room's at the end of the hall.
The manager is literally standing in the center of the circle,
Center of the hallway.
as if he owns the entire. You know, he reminds me of like a movie, like one of those military movies when you have the general out there, like Patton, who stands
Right.
in the middle of the battlefield because he knows he's not going to get shot.
Right.
It's just that badass.
Yeah.
That's why that looked like.
And had 30 rounds went off, those guys evidently were already up there.
So it gets better. Okay, you ready
That's
for this?
crazy.
Are you sitting down? So the detective says, so you're on the phone, arm units get up there. Does he stay on the phone? Okay, so we heard that. So he hung up, all this stuff. Are units on the scene? Yes, units are on the scene. Okay, that's the timeline we need to know right there.
Right. Boom.
Right there.
Hallway, and apparently, from what he was saying, they put a bracket up on the stairwell door. Copy, forget about. And it's you go down the hallway, the last one double doors.
The direction of shooting is probably the people, so look out for that.
Is he shooting on his way?
He was. That's how I got that.
Hey Zeus, yeah, just passenger elevators, we can stop the. What room is the number? Three. 130.
On the very end. The double doors on the very end.
Okay,
I know, I just don't want to. Go ahead. Come here. I got it.
So the detective says, all right. I mean, there's no follow-up, right? So he goes, all right. After that happened, what happened down in the dispatch area?